Let us move on to a new chapter, quadrilaterals. So here are the topics that we are going to cover in this chapter. Quadrilaterals and types of quadrilaterals, angle sum property of a quadrilateral, and midpoint theorem. And we will see some additional theorems as well. We will move on to quadrilaterals and types of quadrilaterals. This is just a recap of class 8. Let us see the quadrilaterals and types of quadrilaterals one by one.
Line segments is called a quadrilateral, or a closed geometrical figure bounded by 4 line segments is called quadrilateral. ABCD is a quadrilateral. AB, BC, CD, DA are sides of quadrilateral ABCD. A, B, C, and D are vertices of the quadrilateral ABCD. Angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D are angles of the quadrilateral ABCD. AB and CD are one pair of opposite sides. AD and BC is the other pair of opposite sides. By joining the two non-consecutive vertices, we will get diagonals. So AC and BD are diagonals of quadrilateral ABCD. According to the nature of sides or angles of a quadrilateral, it gets a special name. Kite and its properties. ABCD is a quadrilateral. In this, AD is equal to AB and CD is equal to CB. Two pair of adjacent sides are equal and the opposite sides CD and AB are not equal. In a kite, the opposite sides are not equal. So AD is not equal to BC and AB is not equal to CD. These are examples for kite. Let us learn the properties of kite. The diagonals are perpendicular to each other. By folding the kite along the larger diagonal, the two triangles are overlapping each other. So we can call them congruent triangles. Angle DCE is equal to angle BCE. Angle DAE is equal to angle BAE. So the larger diagonal is bisecting the apex angles. DE is equal to EB. CE is not equal to EA. One of the diagonals bisects the other diagonal. Diagonal AC bisects BD perpendicularly at E. Trapezium and its properties. What type of paired lines are there on the display? Parallel lines. AB is parallel to DC. Draw a pair of intersecting lines on the parallel line. Now consider only the closed part. What type of figure did we get? Quadrilateral. In this quadrilateral, a pair of opposite sides are parallel. This is a special quadrilateral named as trapezium. AB is parallel to DC. In a quadrilateral, if a pair of opposite sides are parallel, it is called a trapezium. We know that AD is a transversal. AB is parallel to DC. Angle ADC and angle BAD are pair of co-interior angles. What should be the sum of co-interior angles? 180 degrees. Therefore, angle A plus angle D is equal to 180 degrees. Co-interior angles. Similarly, we know that BC is a transversal. AB is parallel to DC. Angle ABC and angle BCD are pair of co-interior angles. What would be the sum of co-interior angles? 180 degrees. Therefore, angle B plus angle C is equal to 180 degrees. Co-interior angles. Adjacent angles corresponding to parallel sides are supplementary. Isosceles trapezium and its properties. AB is parallel to DC and AD is equal to BC. If a trapezium has its non-parallel sides equal, then the trapezium is called an isosceles trapezium. Let us learn the properties of an isosceles trapezium. On folding the trapezium, angle A will overlap on angle B. Likewise, angle D will overlap on angle C. Now, angle A and angle B are base angles. If we turn the trapezium 180 degrees, then angle C and angle D will be the base angles. Always the base angles are equal in isosceles trapezium. We know that AD is a transversal. AB is parallel to DC. Angle ADC and angle BAD are pair of co-interior angles. What would be the sum of co-interior angles? 180 degrees. Therefore, angle A plus angle D is equal to 180 degrees. Similarly, we know that BC is a transversal. AB is parallel to DC. Angle ABC and angle BCD are pair of co-interior angles. What would be the sum of co-interior angles? 180 degrees. Therefore, angle B plus angle C is equal to 180 degrees. Adjacent angles corresponding to parallel sides are supplementary. Length of AC and length of BD are equal in isosceles trapezium. Quadrilaterals Parallelogram. A quadrilateral whose opposite sides are parallel and congruent is a parallelogram. Consider a quadrilateral ABCD. This quadrilateral has four sides: AB, BC, CD, and AD. Sides of a parallelogram. The opposite sides of a parallelogram are parallel and congruent. AB and DC is the first pair of parallel sides. AD and BC is the second pair of parallel sides. The lines or segments which don't intersect each other are parallel lines. As we can see, AB and DC will never intersect, whereas AD and BC will also not intersect each other. So we can say that the opposite sides are parallel. Not only parallel, opposite sides of the parallelogram are congruent as well. That is, length of AB and DC are equal, while length of AD and BC are equal. Say for example, if AB is equal to 7 centimeters, then DC will be equal to 7 centimeters. If AD is equal to 3 centimeters, then BC is equal to 3 centimeters. Angles of a parallelogram. opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. Angle A and angle C are the first pair of opposite angles. Angle B and angle D are the second pair of opposite angles. Opposite angles are congruent. That is, angle A is congruent to angle C and angle B is congruent to angle D. Example, if angle A is 120 degrees, angle C also has to be 120 degrees. Similarly, if angle B is equal to 60 degrees, angle D is also equal to 60 degrees. Diagonals of a parallelogram. Diagonals are the line segments joining opposite vertices. Point A and point C is the first pair of opposite vertices, while points B and D are also opposite. Let us join them. We get segment AC and segment BD. Segment AC and segment BD are the two diagonals of this parallelogram ABCD. The diagonals intersect each other at a point. Let us name this point as point O. So we can say that the diagonals of the parallelogram intersect each other in point O. Property of diagonals. Diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. That is, if we consider diagonal AC, it is bisected at point O. That is, AO is equal to OC. Also, diagonal BD is bisected at point O. That is, BO is equal to OD. If the length of the diagonal AC is equal to 12 centimeters, then as we know, AO is equal to OC. AO and OC are equal to 6 centimeters each. Suppose the length of the diagonal BD is 20 centimeters. As it is bisected at point O, OB and OD are equal to 10 centimeters each. Rectangle. A parallelogram with each angle as a right angle is a rectangle. If you observe properly, a rectangle is a parallelogram itself. The only difference between the rectangle and a parallelogram is that in a rectangle, all the angles are right angles, and in a parallelogram, all the angles are not right angles. Rest all the properties of a parallelogram and rectangle are the same. Properties of a rectangle. A quadrilateral whose opposite sides are parallel and congruent, as well as all the angles are right angles, is a rectangle. Sides of a rectangle. PQ and RS is the first pair of opposite sides, while QR and PS is the second pair of opposite sides. PQ is parallel to RS, and QR is parallel to PS. Also, PQ is equal to RS, and QR is equal to PS. Angles of rectangle. All angles of a rectangle are right angles. That is, the measure of each angle is 90 degrees. Diagonals of a rectangle. Diagonals of a rectangle bisect each other and are congruent. PR and QS are the two diagonals of the rectangle. Suppose PR is equal to 14 centimeters. Then QS will also be equal to 14 centimeters. as diagonals are congruent to each other. Let the two diagonals intersect at point O. Since the diagonals of the rectangle bisect each other, if we consider this diagonal PR, it is bisected at point O, which means PO is equal to OR. So PO is equal to 7 centimeters and OR is also equal to 7 centimeters. Also, diagonal QS is bisected at point O. That is QO is equal to OS, which is equal to 7 centimeters. Rhombus and its properties. Rhombus is a special type of a parallelogram. If all the sides of a parallelogram are equal, then the parallelogram is said to be a rhombus. Rhombus is a special type of parallelogram, so rhombus has all the properties of a parallelogram. Do you remember the properties of a parallelogram? Yes. The opposite sides are equal and parallel. The opposite angles are equal. Any pair of adjacent angles are supplementary. Each diagonal bisects the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. The diagonals bisect each other. And a rhombus also has some additional properties which a parallelogram does not have. All sides are equal in a rhombus. What is the angle at the point of intersection of two diagonals? 90 degrees. The diagonals of rhombus are perpendicular to each other. Length of OD and OB are equal. Similarly, length of OA and length of OC are equal. If we fold the rhombus along diagonal AC, then angle DCO overlap on angle BCO. Also, angle DAO overlap on angle BAO. The diagonal divides the angles into two equal parts. So the diagonal of a rhombus is an angle bisector. Similarly, another diagonal also is an angle bisector. Two diagonals of a rhombus divides it into four congruent right-angled triangles. Properties of a square. A square is a special type of a rectangle, and a rectangle is a special type of a parallelogram. AB is equal to BC is equal to CD is equal to DA. If the lengths of adjacent sides of a rectangle are equal, then the rectangle is said to be a square. Here are examples for a square. A square is a special type of a rectangle. All sides of a square are equal. All angles of a square are equal and are right angles. Diagonals of a square are perpendicular and bisect each other. Diagonals of a square are equal in length. The diagonals are equal and bisect each other. Each interior angle is equal to 90 degrees. Let us talk about other properties of a square. As we know that the diagonals are equal, the angle between the diagonals is 90 degrees. So AC is perpendicular to B. OA is equal to OC and OB is equal to OD. Diagonals are equal and perpendicular to each other, and the diagonals bisect each other. Let us summarize what we have learned. In a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel and equal. In a parallelogram, the opposite angles are equal. In a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other and the diagonals divide the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. Rhombus, rectangle, and square are special types of a parallelogram. Rhombus, rectangle, and square have the same properties of a parallelogram, and also they have some additional properties.